The view from this mountain overlooks the entire Barkley Sound, and way down in the distance is actually Bamfield and the community forest. The community forest is a low-lying temperate red cedar forest, and literally one of the very few remaining in this entire area. As I mentioned, on the backside of this mountain is one of the last patches of temperate cedar forest left. There's a reason I keep showing this same clip. I'll explain why in a bit. It's another woodlot lice, but the entire woodlot has been transformed into a brand new forest. Rob Furness, the forester who engineered the cut blocks in the community forest, believes we need to eliminate the decadent old-growth forest and replace it with what he calls second-growth forests and I call first-growth forests. This attitude has not changed in thousands of years. It's archaic. He calls them beautiful. I call them dead zones. I explained it in my story, What is a First Growth Forest? Beyond this mountain is Kennedy Lake. This is where the War in the Woods was. What people don't realize is that during the War in the Woods, McMillan Bloedel moved all of their logging equipment to the Franklin River Division. They could keep the environmentalists busy while they clear-cut all of this area. I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the forest.
All the insects, the rodents, birds, animals, this is where they live.
While I was working on this video with Willy, I was doing some selective logging. This was an old-growth cedar I had carefully fallen. If you look at the stump to the right, I had made a point of making it a seed log. So after I'd taken the tree out, I actually planted a tree on top of that stump. I didn't plant what they used to call genetically engineered seedlings. I planted a little old-growth seedling. This is 30 years later. You can see it's still a small tree. As I mentioned, every year seeds fall from the top of the canopies and land on the forest floor. They germinate under the protection of their family. Out of the thousands that fall, there will be a few that survive, like this little spruce tree. I cleared a 10 meter by 10 meter patch of the forest on the corner of my property. This little guy would be over 50 years old. For my business, Bluestone Clay, I'm going to put the processing facility right in the forest, so I knocked down a couple of trees. Just want to point out, this is the border between the community forest and my property. As Willy says, the plants and animals keep the forest alive. He's right, it's this broken up canopy that keeps the forest alive. The sun is able to penetrate the canopy. It gives life to the entire forest, from the bugs to the giant trees. This is my cat Fatso. I blame him for bringing all the riffraff into my house. He just won't stop bringing his friends over. But this is what I get for living in an old-growth forest on the edge of the community forest. I've always had these bush cats. This is Fatso's sister, Hippo. I needed a cat, so I went out into the bush, took a live trap, and captured him. So we've talked about the ecosystem of the forest. Now let's get into the second-growth forests. As I said, a clear-cut looks as if an ice age has come and gone. Clear-cut logging is the removal of all trees on any given site. Even a 0.25 hectare cut block is a clear cut. Once the forest is gone, the barren ground is replanted with seedlings from a greenhouse. They grow with a maximum exposure to the sun, the wind, and the rain. They grow like weeds. I pulled this picture off Facebook. It's a realtor who was warning people about the difference between old wood and new wood. Furness would have been a young forester in the 90s. Made claims that these super fast-growing trees were the trees of the future. McMillan Bloedel was claiming these trees were super trees, fast-growing, genetically engineered, insect-resistant. Rob still believes these are super trees. The grain is so coarse they'll rot out right away. There's no comparison in the quality of the two types of wood. Old growth compared to new growth. The price in the store reflects this. The scariest thing about these tree farms is the stage they go through in the next 20 years. These new tree farms grow up on the west coast and create such a thick canopy the sunlight doesn't penetrate. No sun, no life. This is why we call them dead zones, and they are everywhere now because all of the old growth forest is gone. We honestly feel bad for the children of the future because this is what we're leaving them. I should congratulate the logging company and the Canadian government. The native way of logging was to take what they needed and leave the rest as sacred. They taught them how to log the way of the white man, teamed up with them. They have succeeded in annihilating all of the old growth forests in this entire area. Well done.